I went to a private room with my old flame at the reunion. His message afterward ended everything. I wanted to feel alive, but now I'm completely numb. It's funny because looking back, I didn't even want to go for that stupid high school reunion. I wanted to sleep in. But it was my husband David that kept telling me to get out of the house. He was the one who kept telling me that I was stuck inside a bit too much and I needed to get out more. He said that the reunion was the perfect opportunity. He made me see reasons to go, so if you look at it from my point of view, everything that happened that night was part of his fault. I'm not saying it's his fault entirely, but he had a hand to it. He contributed to it. I received the invitation message about 1 month before the reunion date. Like I said, I had no intention of going, so I left it out of my mind. But when my husband found out about it, he marked it on our calendar. That morning, he helped me pick out my outfit. I was reluctant. After COVID, I began working from home, and I just never went back to the office. And soon enough, I stopped going out altogether. I felt like I wasn't up to standard anymore, so I didn't bother going out for social gatherings. My husband gave me the motivation I needed, and I prepared for the reunion. From the moment I stepped into the reunion venue, I caught the eye of everyone in the hall. I tried to blend in and hoped that the night would be over quickly, but my classmates started coming to talk to me. I was exhausted with the entire communication ordeal, and half of the guys there were hitting on me nonstop, and those who weren't hitting on me were looking at me like I was a piece of meat. I didn't want to be rude, but I had to excuse myself from them and go get a drink alone. While I was sipping my drink on my own, I heard someone call my name softly. It was Liam, my first love. He was my first everything. First kiss, my first time. Last I heard, he wasn't even in the country, so I wasn't expecting to see him there. But there he was. I felt so happy. It was like I suddenly came out of my shell and gave him a tight hug. He was just as happy to see me. He asked if I was with anyone, and I told him that I wasn't. He smiled and offered to get me a drink. I immediately gulped down the one in my hand and smiled at him. He chuckled and went to get me another drink. I got so excited that I quickly arranged my hair and checked to make sure that my appearance was okay. Barely a minute later, he came back with 2 glasses of whiskey. We began talking. At first, it was just 2 old friends catching up. But soon enough, he asked me a question that took me by surprise. He asked me if I was happy. I didn't understand that. He then rephrased the question. He asked if I was satisfied with the life I was living now. My answer was that I was married, I had a kid, a good job, and a house. He laughed and told me that wasn't the answer to his question. He left the question, and we talked and reminisced of old times. He then asked me if I wanted to go somewhere quiet because the hall was noisy. I nodded, and he led me out of the hall. He said nothing fun was going on, so let us hang out with each other. He took me to the elevator, and we began going up. I asked where we were going. Turns out he was staying in the hotel where the reunion was being hosted. When we got to his room, he asked me to sit and offered me another glass of whiskey from the fridge in the room. We talked some more, and he apologized for the way things ended between us. I laughed and told him that it happened so many years ago, so there was nothing to apologize about. I had forgotten about it. Liam left school without saying goodbye. After our final exams, he disappeared. He didn't even come for prom. I learned his family had moved, but he was supposed to tell his girlfriend at least, and he didn't. "Does he make you happier than I did?" Liam suddenly asked, and I laughed. I was supposed to shut him down for asking such a question, but I didn't. It was like I was enjoying the conversation and allowing him to poke into the holes of doubt I already had. Of course, I was bored with marriage. It had its good times, but it had its exhausting sides that just made everything annoying. I tried telling Liam that we were teenagers when the both of us dated, and that he couldn't compare my current emotional state to that of my childhood self. But before I could even manage to say the words, he silenced me with a kiss. Immediately his lips touched mine. I went quiet. He suddenly pulled away, apologizing. He told me that he just couldn't resist me because I was so beautiful and attractive. When he said that, I felt so good, and leaned forward and kissed him. He couldn't believe it either. There was this flirty banter going on between us. We talked as we kissed, and he told me that he never stopped thinking about me, and that I would always have a special place in his heart. One thing led to another, and we spent the night together. I went all out. I had never felt that good and thrilled. But when I woke up in the morning, I realized what I had done. I immediately jumped out of bed and slowly put on my clothes so I wouldn't wake Liam. I didn't want any awkward goodbyes or any of those conversations that would leave room for something like that to happen again. It was a one-time thing. It felt great, but that was it. My phone was off, so when I got into the taxi, I asked the driver if he had a charger. Luckily, he did. I charged my phone on the way home. It was my child's birthday that morning, and I was supposed to pick up his cake, but I didn't remember until my phone came and I saw the reminder. I felt so disoriented, like I was going to explode. Just as I was about to tell the driver to change directions so I could go pick up the birthday cake from the cake store, I saw a message pop up from my husband, David. I hope he was worth it. The locks are changed. Don't even think about coming back, because you don't have a home anymore. After seeing that, I didn't ask the driver to change directions. I asked him to speed up. I needed to get home very quickly. How did my husband know? I was worried and curious. I didn't know what to say, but I needed to get home first. When I arrived, I hurried to the door and tried to unlock it, but it wasn't opening. I knocked and knocked, but there was no reply. I then went to the window to look if there was anyone inside. I saw my husband sitting in the dining room. His phone was on the dining table right in front of him, and he was sipping coffee from his favorite cup. I gently knocked on the window glass and called my husband's name, but he didn't even blink. I almost thought he had gone deaf. I tried calling his phone, and I saw his phone ringing on the table. I could hear the ringtone. Yet somehow my husband was pretending not to hear me. I was getting to my limits. I told my husband to open the door, or else I'd break the window and jump in. He didn't answer me. He just got up and walked upstairs. I couldn't believe it. I walked back to the porch when I fell and started crying. Just one night of weakness had ruined my life. While I was there crying, I got a text on my phone. It was from Liam. He said that last night was amazing and that we should talk. I was so angry and was about to delete the text, but I paused. We never exchanged numbers, Liam and I. So how in the world did he get my number to send that text? I was still there contemplating when my husband unlocked the door and threw my bags out the house. He had packed all my clothes. I immediately got up and told him to stop behaving like a child and let's have a mature conversation like two grown-up people. He looked at me like he wanted to give me a slap that would discipline me, but he didn't do anything. He was about to go back inside, but I didn't let him. I held the side of his shirt and told him not to walk away from me. I told him that he was acting weird. He sent me a weird text, and now he was throwing my things out of the house. I asked if he was pulling some sort of prank. He laughed and said that I was a good pretender. He said that he was worried that I was going to be alone at the reunion, so he wanted to come and be by my side. So he sent our son to his sister's house and came to the reunion. I felt my knees suddenly feel weak. He came to the reunion. He said he saw me and Liam leave the hall and enter the elevator. He saw the floor we stopped at, and he took the elevator to that floor as well, only to see Liam and I holding hands, giggling and laughing. We were walking slowly through the corridor like we had all the time in the world. He said he saw us enter one of the hotel rooms and his heart sank. He wondered what he could have done to deserve this, but he realized that it wasn't about him, but it was all my doing. He called me an ungrateful and evil witch who bites the hand that takes care of her. I couldn't stand there and be insulted that way. I was horrified that I was caught, but to be talked to like this because of one weak moment was just taking things too far. I pulled my husband's hand and said that he was jumping to conclusions because he saw Liam and I entering a private room together. And because of his insecurities and presumptions, he was acting like a child. He was so mad when I said that. He looked straight at me and said I had the nerve to still be denying what was bright as day. He told me that he didn't want to argue anymore, so I should get off his porch. I couldn't even say anything else before he got back inside, slammed the door and locked it up. I was so frustrated. I needed to go somewhere because I couldn't exactly sleep on the porch. My only options were my friend's place, my sister-in-law's place, and my brother's place. I couldn't go to my sister-in-law's place for obvious reasons, so I got in a taxi and went to my brother's place. He stayed about 20 minutes away from my house. When I knocked on the door, he opened it almost immediately. He saw me standing there, and instead of my brother asking what happened, he burst into laughter. My brother always made a joke out of everything, but I wasn't in the mood for his jokes. I walked past him, and he kept asking what I had done for my husband to send me out. He wasn't even asking because he cared. He was just curious, and probably because he wanted to make a joke out of it. I refused to tell him, because his jokes would only make me angrier. I sat on the couch and told him that I needed food. He told me to go to the kitchen myself and prepare something. Just then, I got another text from Liam. He was asking if he performed so badly in bed the previous night, and if that was why I wasn't answering his messages. But that wasn't the truth. Liam satisfied me in every way possible, if only he had an idea of the kind of problem I was in. While I was busy looking at the phone, my brother pulled the phone out of my hand and read the new message and the one he sent earlier. My brother couldn't believe it. He looked at me and asked how I could do this to my husband. His playful demeanor suddenly became serious and disappointing. He was about to walk away, but I held his arm and told him to promise me he won't tell our parents. He pulled his arm out of my hold and told me that wasn't promising me anything. My brother walked into his room. I buried my face in my palm, thinking of what to do. How was I going to convince my husband that nothing happened? I sat on that couch for about an hour when Liam sent me another text. He asked why I was ignoring his messages. I still didn't answer the message, and he sent me another one. It was just my name with exclamation marks as though he was screaming my name. I then answered that he should leave me alone. He didn't say anything for a few minutes, and the next thing I knew, he sent a video. It was a video of him and I sleeping together the previous night. He recorded us without my knowledge. I immediately called him, and he picked up. He was laughing when he answered the call. He said he thought I had lost my ability to answer messages, and now I was the one calling him. I asked him if he had lost his mind. He told me that he needed to get my attention somehow. I was so angry. He told me that he wanted to see me again, or else he'd send the video to my husband and our high school group chat. I was devastated. To think that I ruined my marriage for someone who was willing to blackmail me was just heartbreaking. I asked him how he could do this to me, and he told me that he just wanted to have me. I had never felt so betrayed. I told him that I would do whatever he wanted. Then I ended the call. It was still my son's birthday, and I didn't want to miss it. So I went to get the cake and went to meet him at my husband's sister's house to meet my son. I didn't have any clue that my phone had gone off when I got there. My son was so happy to get his cake, but while I was there, my husband came. He had also gotten a cake for my son. When he saw me there, he was so angry. He asked me what I was doing there. He didn't want to argue with me in front of our son, so pulled me outside and we started having an argument. He said he needed me to stay away from our child, effective immediately. He told me to stay out of their lives, and I lost it at him, telling him that he was accusing me of something that I didn't do, because he was insecure and had a fragile ego. He went quiet for a few seconds. He asked me to swear that I didn't cheat on him with Liam when we went into that room. I stood my ground and swore on our child's life, saying that we didn't do anything and that I was innocent. He stared at me for a few seconds. My denial was so strong that I think he was beginning to believe me. He didn't say anything for some time, then his phone chimed and he looked at his phone. He was looking at his phone for a bit too long and he started frowning. I was impatient and I said, "We're having a serious conversation and you're too busy with your phone." I sighed and I was about to walk back into the house, but he blocked me. He showed me a screen and it was a video of me and Liam sleeping together. Liam had sent the video to him. I almost fainted. My husband shook his head and reminded me that I swore on our child's life, yet I lied. He told me that he didn't want to see me again. Before I could say anything, he walked into the house and shut the door. I was speechless. The only thing I could do was deny everything, and I had been doing that, but now everything had been discovered completely. I started crying there because I didn't know how else to react. After a few minutes of standing there, completely clueless, I went straight to the hotel where Liam was staying. I knocked on his hotel room door like I was about to break it down. He opened the door and was smiling at me like he had achieved what he wanted. I asked him why he would send the video to my husband, and he told me that since he couldn't reach me, he decided to send the video to my husband. He thought that I blocked him, and I was so mad. I shouted at him, telling him that my phone was off. All he said was, "Oops." I felt like I was going to explode. I told him that I wouldn't let him get away with this. He told me that I didn't need to try to mend my marriage because it was beyond saving. He wanted me to come with him instead. I didn't understand how Liam could be so evil. He had completely changed. He wasn't the person I knew in high school and loved. I told him that he was delusional, and I walked away immediately. When I got back to my brother's house, my mother and father were there. I was shocked to see them there. They were seated as though they were waiting for someone. I asked what was going on, and while I was still talking, my sister came in. It was like there was a family meeting I didn't know about. My father angrily asked me what he had ever done wrong for me to embarrass our family in such a way. I knew what he was talking about, so I looked at my brother. I thought he was the one that told my family about my infidelity, but he said he didn't tell anyone anything. Apparently, Liam had also posted the video on our high school group chat, and someone had forwarded it to my sister, and my mouthy sister told my parents. My mother couldn't even speak. She seemed so disappointed. She couldn't even say anything. My father was the one talking nonstop in anger. I told them that I made a mistake. It was an honest mistake, and they were trying to crucify me for a mistake I made. I told them that I had been the perfect wife and best daughter, and I made just one mistake, and now they wanted to crucify me because of that mistake. My father shook his head, saying that I wasn't showing remorse. He just got up and walked to the kitchen. I looked at my mother and asked her to say something. I wanted someone to be on my side, but it seemed no one was. I looked at my sister and called her a snake before I left the house. I didn't know where to go. My phone was still off, and I was so confused on what to do. I went to my friend's house to stay for the time being. Within days, almost every single person in my life knew about my infidelity. The shame was too much. I was so scared to even go to work because I knew that everyone at work must have found out. My friend whom I was staying with was now even looking at me like I was the most vile person she had ever seen. When I eventually went to work, I saw my husband walking out of my office building. I tried talking to him, but he didn't even bother saying a single word to me. He just walked to his car, got an envelope, and threw it at me. He said he didn't know where I was living, so he didn't know where to have the papers sent. He didn't even wait for me to open the envelope. He just got into his car and drove off. When I opened the envelope, it was divorce papers. My heart felt like it was shrinking. I went to my office, and before I could even take my seat, my boss called me to his office. When I got to his office, he asked me to pack up my things, and he told me that I was fired. I lost my job and marriage in one morning. My boss was my husband's cousin, and I knew that my husband had a hand in this. He wanted to make my life miserable. I feel so frustrated. I wish I could change things because my life is becoming unbearable. Update. It has been almost 7 months since my life turned upside down. The divorce was concluded a long time ago, and my husband won custody of our child. He used my mistake against me, saying that I was unfit to raise a child. He told the court that he had to make sure my son didn't have access to any digital devices or the internet, because he was scared that someone would come across my leaked video. The entire court felt his pain, and I lost horribly. I was only given supervised visits, but my husband had full custody of our child. And what's even more sadistic was that I became a kind of plague that everyone avoided. My family wanted nothing to do with me, and my friends, they stayed as far away from me as possible. My life took a very sad and lonely turn. I think David is now dating someone else because I saw him with another woman. They were walking with my child in between them, and they both held my child's hand as they smiled and laughed and talked. He moved on so quickly, like I meant nothing to him, like all the years we spent together were absolutely nothing to him. My life has gone from one problem to another. I had to get a job as a cashier in a supermarket, and it was very difficult for me to get a job there, but the owner was willing to take a chance on me. And since my David found out that I work there, he always brought his new girlfriend along whenever he was coming to buy something from the supermarket. It was like he was coming to show off how happy he was, and all I missed out on. I was only able to take off our wedding ring a few days ago. I guess I didn't want to believe that I had lost everything and there was no hope anymore, but I have come to terms with that now. I never heard from Liam. I really wanted to press charges against him, but I couldn't even afford to do so. I'm just mad my life turned out this way. If only my husband didn't make me go for the reunion that day.